Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBET is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
December 7th, Tuesday night, 6:03 Mountain Time. Means it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am your host, Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, my good friend and co-host, Carl Dumler. Carl, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I've spent a little bit of time today fixing my computer, which is always a fun task to do. But, otherwise, it's a nice December day, I guess you could say. And life is still good. Even with the Broncos losing bad this weekend, I know a lot of people are pretty amped up about all of that, and we'll get into it. Yeah. But, not all is lost, thankfully, in life. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be here, man, and happy to talk some Bronco football, even in a difficult time.
All right, and let's get into it. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat right now. We got Diamond Rattler saying, boom, let's go. Always good to see you, Diamond. Dylan Von Arx is in the house, too. Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in. Amen to that. Jay's in the house, too, saying, for Vic's sake, if he is trying to be back next year, they better not lose to the Lions at home. Is this a make-or-break game for Vic Fangio's future in Denver, Carl?
Well, yeah, this is the easiest game left on your schedule by far. If you lose this one, playoffs are just not happening. I'm sorry. If you lose to the Lions in a must-win game, especially at home, the writing's on the wall. Even if you make the playoffs, I think the embarrassment of losing to the Lions at home might be enough to get you fired. Yeah,
I agree with you totally. This is a game where maybe it doesn't matter as much with the divisional or conference tiebreakers, but if you're losing to the Lions, you're not rattling off 4 straight after that. And every game you have to have at this point. So I agree with you. It is a must win. And if they don't win this game, heads will roll, right? I know that the Lions just beat the Vikings, but Denver at home with the way their defense has been playing the last couple of weeks, they should be able to get after Goff. As long as, honestly, the thing that scares me a little bit is the Lions run game is starting to come together and the Broncos run defense has not been very good, but maybe this is one where you see a little bit more crowding the box, single high safety looks to get more bodies and run fits and say, Jared Goff, beat us deep, please make my day.
Yeah. They've been better than their record shows. I would say, I mean, they've had a lot of close games.
Yeah.
They lost to the Ravens on a record setting field goal.
Yep.
And the Steelers, obviously, they took them into overtime, should have won that game on some missed field goals. So there's been a few games they could have easily turned those into victories, but it's still a bad team. And you got to win against the bad teams, especially when you're a middle-of-the-road kind of team like the Broncos are right now. You can't afford to drop one like this.
Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for Week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
And overall, I mean, I would say this season, the Broncos have beaten bad teams. The only game this year where I would argue maybe they didn't beat a quote-unquote bad team, maybe that Steelers game, Week 5. I mean, I don't respect that Steelers offensive line, and they had the Denver for somehow they beat Denver that week, but I don't think they're a very good squad. And also the Raiders the week after John Gruden was fired. Those two hurt a lot. And I guess you can say the Browns too with Case Keenum. But for the most part, the Broncos have beaten the quote unquote bad teams. The Lions might be the worst team they've played this season, right? Right now they've earned so far. If the season ended today, they'd have the number 1 overall pick. But it's the NFL. Broncos are actually favored by less in this Lions game than the Chiefs were versus Denver on Sunday night. So the 8 points spread right now. So, we'll see what happens, but the Broncos should beat that game. They should win this game. I'm definitely, unless something drastic comes out here in the next couple of days, I'm going to pick the Broncos to cover the spread in that game, and they should win. If they don't, good luck, Vic Fangio and all these guys. You'll be looking for new work next year. We got Miguel Santa Steven coming in here saying, good evening, Jets. Congratulations to Justin Simmons on the three-peat of Walter Payton Man of the Year. Yeah, you guys, make sure you are getting out there and voting for Justin Simmons for Walter Payton Man of the Year. We also got Lewis Condon coming in here with Facebook stars. Thank you so much, Lewis, for your support. And shout out to Justin Simmons again. Did you watch that video with
I did.
Steve Atwater?
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, what a cool way to find out that you're the Walter Payton Man of the Year. One of the people he probably looked up to at the safety position growing up, and obviously has been mentored at a little bit there with the Broncos organization, and just getting that opportunity just to have that kind of video played for him. And it was pretty awesome. And Justin Simmons, man, you couldn't ask for a better, I would call him face of the franchise. He's a great player on the field. Honestly, he's gotten better as the season's gone on. He is looking like maybe the first or second best safety in football right now, making plays left and right. Honestly, he's dropped about 4 interceptions this year. Yeah. He could be leading the NFL in interceptions. But like I said, then off the field, what this guy brings to the Denver community, just left and right, he does. He's such a cool guy, and I'm so glad that he's a Denver Bronco. Yeah,
and Justin Simmons maybe not having the best season this year. I think probably if I was voting right now, if there was like a single safety that would get the number 1 nod, it'd be Kevin Byard for Tennessee, who's been having a phenomenal season out there. But Simmons has been really good. So, like you said, on and off the field, he's what you want for a Denver Bronco. Very intelligent, very involved in the community. And when good people are good players on your team, and that's just, that makes the world go round. It makes it so much more fun to cover this team and to follow this team. Mr. Stewmeat coming in saying, how's it? How you doing, Mr. Stewmeat? It's always good to see you in here. We also have a question from Corey Johnson saying, maybe we can rework Vic's contract and move him to defensive coordinator next season. Who wouldn't want an easier job for the same pay? What do you think on this one, Carl?
Well, you have to give credit to the defense in this last game. Yep. They played one of their better games against one of the best quarterbacks out there, obviously, in Patrick Mahomes. They shut down that offense. They did their job. Yeah. Like they won. And credit to Vic, this defense, especially 4 of the last 5 weeks has played lights out. They've played like a top 5 defense. And so, yeah, if you could bring him back as a defensive coordinator, more power to you. I can't see that happening. Nobody likes to take that kind of demotion in the same organization that you're a part of.
Yeah, it just creates too many weird power dynamics in the locker room with who answers to who's the one that's leading the meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't see that happening unless it's somebody who's like been and more likely in college, but they've been a part of the program for a long time and they're moving on to more of a CEO kind of role or offensive assistant quality assurance kind of thing because they're retired. They need to take a less on their plate. Being involved in the organization versus this pure demotion that Corey's talking about here. But we appreciate the comment, Corey. Just don't see that happening. Brian Van Vorst coming in here saying we need to fire and passion with every member of the coaching staff. Sticking his thumbs under his armpits and sulking on the sideline hasn't gotten him anywhere. Obviously talking about Vic Fangio. And I don't disagree with the sentiment here about fire and passion, but people are different and leadership styles are different too. And what works for some guys isn't going to work for others. Like if Bill Belichick was out here screaming about biting off kneecaps, it would, what the hell are you doing, Bill? Like you're not being authentic to who you are as a leader. Or if Sean McVay came out and started being really curmudgeon-y, that's not the type of player they are. So I think it's more important outside of the fire and passion. Obviously you have to have passion, but to be authentic to who you are as a coach. And I think for Vic, that also means that surrounding yourself with the right kind of guys to push those buttons. Like if you know that you are not connecting with the players the best or the rah-rah, you need to have some rah-rah guys in there. Yeah. But that's just knowing who you are as a leader and setting yourself up to be the best leader as possible, in my opinion.
Right. And that could be where the hiring of Pat Shurmur, because he's not a rah-rah guy at all. You don't really have many rah-rah coaches at this point. Bill Kollar.
I was going to say Kolar. Red Herring is known for some colorful language.
Yeah. See, you got a couple people, but in the really main positions, head coach, offense coordinator, defense coordinator, none of them are known as that rah-rah kind of guy. And, that's why you and I have talked about what we're looking for in the next Broncos head coach, if that's what happens for this team. We're looking for kind of a player's coach, a guy that really does well to connect to players. Maybe he's not as good at the X's and O's as Vic Fangio is, but maybe he does better to connect to players and kind of brings the team back together. You kind of see this ebb and flow in the NFL of you fire one coach, so you kind of go in the opposite direction. And then if that doesn't work, you go back in the other direction. And, it just, like you said, there's different kind of coaches out there that work.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Reid isn't really known as a big time, like in your face, yelling and screaming kind of guy. He's pretty laid back. I've met Andy Reid, and like everybody just gravitated towards him. And he just was like the most relaxed guy, just sitting there talking, having a good old time. And like I said, Bill Belichick, not a yell in your face kind of guy. I mean, every once in a while he gets fired up, but it's very seldom.
Yeah. Absolutely. Andrew Baker coming in with the stars. Thank you so much, Andrew, for the support. Always coming in, and always love the last name Baker too. That's my favorite peak out here in the Pacific Northwest. Mount Baker, man, beautiful. The unknown is the spice of life, but man, Broncos unknown sucks. No one wants to root for not making the playoffs. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. I mean, that's why you play the game, though, right? You never know what's going to happen when you take the field. So having the unknown is important. And I think that Scott may disagree with me on this one on the back end, but there's a lot of teams with parity right now across the league. And that means that a lot of fan bases are bought in, right? There's almost every single team in the league has 5 to 7 wins right now. Legitimately, like 5 to 7 wins, unless, very opposite end of the bell curve on some of those teams. But a lot of teams are in it. And the unknown is going to make this last 5 games really exciting. And the best, most important football games the Broncos have had in half a decade.
Right. Well, I mean, the Broncos are 12th out of 16 teams in the AFC, and they're half game out of being in the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, that's how close this is. Like you said, I mean, any of these teams could catch fire here in December. I mean, who saw the Steelers winning this last weekend against the Ravens when they've been looking pretty bad here lately? You never know what's going to happen. That's what you love about the NFL week to week. I've had this argument with people about college football compared to the NFL. My one big problem with college football is about half the season are games that the winner's already been decided.
Yeah.
There's very little parity. The top 5 teams are usually pretty close to being the same top 5 teams at the end of the year. This year's a little different because Michigan went from unranked to obviously second place. But that's very rare that kind of thing happens. And so for the NFL, one year, I mean, Patriots missed playoffs last year. Now they're looking like maybe the best team in the AFC.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how things can change.
Yeah. I will say that in college, at least you kind of have a rotation of names due to just guys graduating and stuff, where if you have a franchise elite quarterback every year, there's not much changing there when you have that kind of guy. But we got Lando Lee coming in and talk about showing up, being consistent. Lando's been helping us and contributing to multiple shows here that I've been in recently. So thank you so much, Lando. We appreciate that over on Facebook. We also got Trevor checking in from Facebook. Evening, fellas. Go Broncos. Mark Lindemode is in the house. Howdy, Broncos country. Nick, Carl, and Scott. It's always great to see you. Travis is in the house too. Good evening, Nick and Carl and Broncos country. Travis, man, good luck to you guys in the Rose Bowl. It's not my Hawkeyes going against you, but Ohio State versus Utah should be a heck of a game. I'm really excited for the Rose Bowl this year. So good luck to Utah. I'll probably be cheering for Ohio State because of the Big Ten. I'm not rooting against Utah. So we'll put it that way. Travis Tarbox coming in. I know he's probably rooting for the Big Ten, but we'll have to ask him, fellow Hawkeye fan. Evening, fellas. I can still hear Mike Shanahan telling the guys in 1998, you guys want to be a 500 football team in training camp. That's the way this team is going to be. Yeah, Mike Shanahan, definitely a good one. And also Travis coming back in saying it was sad how bad our Hawkeyes played in the Big Ten championship, Nick. The offense did nothing. It was a lot of my hair turned gray this weekend from watching offensive football for my teams. But, what can you do? That's why we got this platform that we can come out here and have a big old cry together, right? I'll cry for super chats, no doubt about it, but haven't cried on here yet. But yeah, Travis, that's okay. I'm excited to play Kentucky in the gosh, what is it? The Citrus Bowl should be a good game. That was Michigan, Alabama last year, and that could be the championship game this year. So we'll see.
There you go.
Who knows? The Hawkeyes won't be there. But let's get into it a little bit. Thank you so much for the comments, Travis, and the support. We appreciate you. Pleasant surprise and biggest letdown so far this season. You came up with the topic, so I'll give you the floor. What are your thoughts here? Lead us into it.
Okay. Well, do we want to start with the bad and go to the good, or good to the bad?
Let's do bad first.
Okay. I'd say one of the disappointments for me this year, we've talked about it a little bit on the show before, Noah Fant.
Yeah.
It just, I really thought he was going to emerge this year. He came into camp just as ripped as he's ever been. Just looked like he really spent the offseason getting himself in the best shape of his life. And I know he did have a lot of off-season or off the field issues that showed up in his life that he had no control over. And so I do get that side of things, but there's just been so many plays that if Noah Fant makes either the block, it turns into a big play, or if he just makes one guy miss, it turns into a big play. And he's just not quite been there. It's just right there on the edge of being something great, and he can't do it. And I'm not giving up on the guy by any means. I mean, he's still a very talented guy. And I think depending on the new staff that possibly comes in and new quarterback, I mean, they could really get the most out of him. And there's been times where he is wide open. And I kind of wonder a little bit if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't trust him anymore with just how things have played out a little bit. Maybe that's what we've seen happen a little bit. But no, he's just been a little bit of my disappointment this year.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people coming in. So howdy to all you guys. I was flashing some names up there, and we appreciate all of you. Tommy Simmers in the house too. Colin Wood, great to see you. We got Wayne coming in too. Hi guys, how you doing? I'm doing good, Wayne. Hope you're doing well. For me, my biggest disappointment, you took the one that was the most obvious to me. I think Noah Fant would be the guy. Third year as tight end, a lot of space to work with the weapons they have. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, if he's checking it down, that means there's opportunities for yards after the catch. And Teddy Bridgewater has been not doing a lot, or Noah Fant's been not doing hardly much of anything after the catch this season. I mean, gosh, how many missed tackles has he had when they've schemed it up? It's a defensive back versus Noah Fant. You know, a 5'10", 195-pound dude versus your 6'5", 250-pound tight end. And he gets downed immediately, like tackled immediately. So it's just, he's definitely been disappointing for me. A guy for me who's been somewhat disappointing this year since you took the obvious one. And we got stars coming in here from Dave Glassman. Thank you so much, Dave. We appreciate you coming in morning and evening. Always consistent, big supporter for us here in Mile High Huddle. We appreciate you, Dave, so much. Somebody who's been disappointing for me this season is Shelby Harris. Shelby Harris is one where I was hoping to you paid him a pretty good contract this season. You know, you had the offseason prior where he came back on the 1-year deal, and George Payton identified him as somebody that they were worth bringing back, gave him a 3-year deal, and haven't seen Shelby making too much of an impact game to game. The defensive line in general has been getting displaced in the run game pretty typically. And Shelby Harris has also been not getting much pressures, and the ball's batted down like you typically say. I know he had 2 big plays in that Cleveland game. I think maybe even the same series where or a couple different series where he had a blocked field goal and forced a pressure to cause an interception. But Shelby Harris has disappointed me this year. He's not really creating much splash plays on that interior defensive line, and he's needed to, especially with Bradley Chubb getting injured, with Von Miller on the move. You needed Shelby to step up and make plays, and he hasn't. So I've been disappointed with Shelby. And that's a hard one for me, right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you want to say disappointed you some?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys out there. Kyle Fuller has been very up and down all season. I mean, he has been the cornerback everybody is attacking, it seems like. Malik Reed, for being the guy that everybody hyped up of, you know, he led the team in sacks last year, and he's a team that teams are targeting big time, especially in the run game. I mean, just run it at Malik Reed, you're picking up 5 yards. And it's just that simple. And he's proving he's a better backup than he ever is a starter. Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple other that stick out to me. I see some comments. So Shelby's been great. He's been okay. I would guess that his pressure rates and whatnot are not in the top 10. And you talk about the guy who's getting double and getting attention. It's Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones has been one that has been, I think he's top 10 in the NFL in pressures, even coming out of this last week's game. And it seems like a lot of the attention is being put on him in pass protection or by opposing teams' pass protection. So I think Shelby next to him should be doing a little bit more impact than he has. Another guy who's disappointed this year has been Garrett Bowles. Now I know he had the injury and then he had the sick little bug, but last year he was playing as a top 5-10 left tackle in football. And this year, while he's not terrible, he's definitely closer to league average. So I've been slightly disappointed there, more so in the run game than anything. But given the contract, especially the bump it's going to have next year, you'd hope he'd be better than what he's shown this year from a game-to-game basis.
Yeah. I like the last name on this one, Deontay Spencer.
Ugh. Yeah.
They should pretty much tell that guy, if it's a kickoff, please just let it bounce into the end zone if you possibly can. Do not return this. I don't care if you are starting at like the 0-yard line. Just let it go into the end zone. I promise you we will get better yards. And then, what he did there at the end of the half in this last game, when they had about, 17 seconds left, and you got one timeout. So you just want to be able to have him fair catch it, throw up one big pass play, hope you can get a timeout and maybe get a field goal out of it. What does he do? He runs around and uses up all of the time, making it completely destroy why you called the timeout in the first place to get the ball back there at the end of the half. And I'm not saying the Broncos would have scored points, but it's just those kind of things where he's just not thinking through what is best for the team. He's thinking through what is best for me to go make a highlight play.
Yeah.
And that kind of selfishness, I hope that he is not our returner next year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I do have one more here after reading the comment section. This one kind of came to my head. We got Dave Glassman saying, no offense to the rest of MHH crew for pure content and intellectualism. Nick Kendell is my favorite. Well, we're going to need to scope out, pan out here because my head is getting absolutely massive. Thank you so much, Dave. I do not deserve that level of praise, but I will certainly take it. And that's so nice of you to say. I really appreciate that. I don't have the title as far as being the nicest person, though. That would be Carl. So I better to be kind than smart. So thank you, Dave. But I got to push that off. Getting compliments myself. I like to act like I get them, but then I get really uncomfortable and flustered. So for me, another guy who's disappointed, and this is for the chat, kind of making this a little bit tongue in cheek, but disappointing. Who's somebody who's had all offseason, they were talked about, oh, it's really close. This guy might get some work. And then every chance he's had this season, he's looked pretty poor. Drew Lock. Yeah. Drew Lock. He's been disappointing. I know that it hasn't been very much reps for him, but you have to question the situational intelligence with him going out there, especially in that Chargers game. Teddy Bridgewater, definitely a massive, terrible game against the Chiefs. But we have the season-long sample size with him. And for the most part, he's been a league average starting quarterback compared to his peers this season. Just is. Not the Chiefs game. He was terrible in the Chiefs game. I need to emphasize that getting this close to the mic. So you guys know I'm serious. But Drew Lock has been disappointed in the limited reps this season. He was supposed to be neck and neck with Teddy. The sample sizes that we've seen this season, granted small, I mean, just dreadful. So I don't know if he's in his own head or whatever's going on here, but it's been unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I've been disappointed because, I mean, with him being with 2 years left on his deal, the arm talent that he has, if it clicks, you'd want to see that, but he has to make the most of his opportunities and has not.
Right.
Period.
And the best way to make the most of your opportunity is to play smart on the field, not to try to go make the big play, but make the smart play. That's what coaches respect. And then they want to give you more opportunities to go out there and make smart plays. I don't think Teddy comes back into that game against the Chargers if Drew Lock is looking very competent and looking like he's running things pretty well.
Yeah.
I think the coaches got really scared. We're like, oh my gosh, he's going to cost us this game. And we're like, I don't care, Teddy. If you're on one leg, you're going to go out there and play. And so, again, I mean, Teddy is not the answer. I agree with Jay Stelos here. It's true. He's not the answer. The quarterback for this team is not on this team.
Yep.
That's just the reality of our situation right now with this. And it sucks. It really does. When you look at the rest of the division and they all have their quarterback figured out, and now they can just sit there and say, okay, let's figure out everything else. Like until you figure out quarterback, you can't hardly figure out some of the other things. And so hopefully this offseason, we'll see what George Payton can do. He worked magic this last offseason, so maybe he can do it twice in a row.
Yeah, and I just got to say, I mean, for everybody on there, I was so ticked off at Teddy this last Kansas City game because he was the main reason they lost this game. He was dreadful. Yep. I think that he only had one pass beyond 8 yards until past garbage time. Just dreadful. He was the main reason they lost that game. So Hopefully they'll get another chance at them with meaningful football in that week 18 game, because that was definitely on the lower end of the bell curve for the games he's had this year.
Yeah.
We got Colby coming in here. Thank you so much, Colby. I'm assuming stars. Said, remember when we had Trendon Holiday, or however you spell his name. I think you spelled it right. I missed that excitement.
So.
Double-ended excitement on that one there, buddy. It was the abject horror sometimes when he was fielding catches or making decisions, and then the pure excitement, when he makes some explosive plays. It was excitement, sometimes not the good kind.
Yep. He could win you a game and lose you a game as a punt returner. And not very often you get to say that about a guy, but you closed your eyes as he was returning it, or as he was catching it. And once he got it in his hands, then you're like, okay, let's see what happens here. And usually it was magic once he actually got the ball in his hands and took off. But oh my gosh, it was pretty scary watching him catch a football.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. We got Andrew Baker coming in saying, should we run the wheels off Melvin the rest of the way to boost stats and better his trade value? Seems like Pookie and Boone is the future. Go Nick, Scott, and Carl. Melvin Gordon's not going to have trade value because he's a free agent at the end of the year. Yep. So you can argue that you want to maybe use him to protect Mike Boone and Javonte Williams, but you're in the midst of a playoff run right now. You're 6-6 with everything you want still in front of you, still within your control. So they're going to go with the best guy. And maybe your argument is to use Gordon more so in other cases, or maybe even use more personnel packages where you use multiple backs on the field. I don't advocate for that. Not in this economy, even though you have two good running backs, you're taking a better pass catcher off the field or blocker in that situation. But you have three very good running backs. It's a good problem to have. It's one position, knock on wood, everyone. It's one position where the Broncos have not been super ravaged with injuries this season. This is the first game, this last week, the first game where you lost a running back to injury. So I feel very good, though. Mike Boone, limited action. Very excited about him. Everybody freaking out. Why would you let go of Philip Lindsay to have Mike Boone out there? It's like, well, I think you can maybe see why if you watch the tape. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit of a curmudgeon who likes to be against the curve on that kind of stuff. But
he did win an award this week.
Angry Run.
Angry Runs. Him and Quinn Miners winning that trophy. So now the Broncos have 2 for the year.
Two and a half?
2.5.
Quinn Miners
we'll take it 2.5. We'll give it to Quinn Miners. And you got to love Quinn Miners doing that on that play. Just that non-quit attitude of his. And we got Stone Carranza coming in here with more stars. Thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate that. And Malcolm Brown from Alaska coming in with a super chat saying, let's draft 2 quarterbacks. Hey, more darts at the board. And really this draft class is kind of a hit and miss. I don't know. There might be a guy that really emerges from this draft, and it might not be even the first 4 or 5 guys taken off the board.
Typically, when you see 2 quarterbacks drafted, it's because there is some dissent in the decision makers going on, where the head coach or quarterback coach or offensive coordinator has a guy, and then the front office has a guy. So I don't know if that would be a good thing, because I think that would point to some disconnect with the decision makers. But I don't think it's a terrible strategy either, especially in this draft. You took one day 2 and then took another one day 3 that had tools. I don't think that would be the worst strategy when you're dealing with excess capital like the Broncos are right now. A couple guys that I like late in this draft, I do tend to gravitate towards the tools based on the tape and where we sit. I'm not getting a chance to interview these guys. I don't know their intelligence. I don't know their character or their work ethic, et cetera, et cetera. But Hendon Hooker for Tennessee, he was a transfer from Virginia Tech. He tends to sail the ball a lot, which is an issue, but there's a reason that we're talking about him being day 3 in a quarterback class this week as this one. But he has a lot of tools. Scares me a little bit because he's in the same offense that made people think Drew Lock was going to be a first-round quarterback in Heupel with his junior year, and then Drew Lock regressed a lot going to I think it was the Dooley offense his senior year. But Heupel is now the head coach of Tennessee, and Hendon Hooker put up some good numbers with a simplified offense, but still good numbers with traits in that offense. And then Caleb Ellerby. I am so excited for Nevada versus Western Michigan, because Carson Strong versus Caleb Ellerby might be the best quarterback matchup in the bowl season this year. Oh, here we go. There we go. Caleb Ellerby. So we got CC coming in here talking about it. That might be Carson Strong versus Caleb Ellerby might be must-watch TV for Broncos country. Yes, who would have thought? Western Michigan versus Nevada.
That's the great thing is you're finding quarterbacks all over the place these days. It's not just the major colleges. And, I've emphasized this before of if I'm talking to a high school prospect that's looking at a college, go someplace you can play. Go to a Nevada where you're going to be able to start right away instead of sitting behind 3 other 5-star recruits that you're probably going to be transferring, just like we saw with the kid from Ohio State. I understand it's really cool to get those kind of offers and things like that. I know we're getting off track on this kind of conversation, but this is, like I said, this is kind of a weird quarterback class. There's some deep names that you kind of like that have some tools that maybe you could develop, but nobody at the top that just makes you go, I have to trade up for that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I did a radio hit piece with Ben Albright and Ryan Edwards today, and they asked me, what would be your strategy in drafting the quarterback? And I told you it on here as well. I have 6 guys who I think are all pretty much stuck together, and I want to use the same strategy that I said they should use last year with the running back position. You have a tier, take the last guy on the tier. You don't want to be the first one to start that run, but if there are 6 guys you like, be the 6th team to take one of those guys on that tier. Because that way you're using the lowest resource possible to get that guy that you still like. Right. So that's where I sit right now. Obviously things will change as we get more information and work on more tape. Hey, MHH fam, coming in from Robot of Doom over on Twitch. Shout out to our Twitch folks. Have some kind of bad personal news. My uncle has the bug. Gosh, damn it, Robot. And it isn't looking good at the moment. We're not sure if he can make it through the night. It's amazing community can pray for us. It would be a lot of hearts. Thank you. Well, guys, make sure you're sending your positive vibes, thoughts, prayers, whatever you have to Robot of Doom and his family and his uncle to pull him through at this time. Because, man, that's rough, man. I'm really sorry to hear that.
For sure.
That sucks. Well, hopefully we can be here to at least give you a little bit of escapism when you're going through this as well. But definitely you have our thoughts, and we'll be checking in at some point soon. Kind of threw me for a loop there, getting me off. But hope you're doing well. And we got Trevor saying come in and praying. Here we go. From BX saying, Nick, how do you talk to Ryan? He's a Teddy apologist. You're talking Ryan Edwards. I don't know. I like Ryan. He's nice, and I like Ben too. I don't have many issues with people in the world and in Broncos media. I think we all want the same thing. It's like the same thing with politics right now. Maybe not to the same extent, but it's like, what's the most important thing? We're all cheering for the Broncos to be good, even if we have different opinions of how to get to the end goal. We want the same thing in our hearts, mostly for the most part. So I think that's the most important thing with this Teddy, Drew, whatever thing. Like, we want Broncos to have a good quarterback. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I'll give you a little hint and some of the behind the scenes stuff with Denver media. Most everybody gets along with everybody. Like, it might look like there's some infighting and things like that, but most of us all get along pretty well and talk to each other on different occasions. And, I recommended, this offseason when we're having kind of a slow time, have a dance off between all the different Denver media groups, see who can win that. I don't think we're going to do well. I don't know if we have any good dancers. Maybe Scott. I think he'd probably be a pretty good dancer.
Scott has some moves.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
He was practicing them after his Braves won the World Series this year. We got Josh King coming in with a question of this one. Actually, it sticks out to me because I was talking with somebody working for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I was asking about this and new information. So yes, our Josh King comes in and says, "I'm old," or question mark. I remember being taught to put your heels on the 10-yard line. If over your head, let it go. Our special teams is terrible. That rule has changed a little bit since the advent of the rugby style punters with all that back rotation. You see balls tend to careen away from the end zone in that situation. So now the rule is heels on the 8. If it's over your head, you let it go. If it's in front of you, you go. So not the 10 anymore. Typically it's the 8 and stuff. I never even, I've heard that before. It never really stuck out to me. But then just recently talking to a coach and I was like, oh, good to know. That's why they do that. So good to see. Michael Ronquillo coming in with stars. I'm sure Michael Ronquillo is one of the kings of the stars up there. Very consistent with us. Always super appreciative that he reaches out after the shows on Twitter and says what he likes about the show. So that's really nice of you, Michael. We appreciate you. Michael says Justin Simmons was nominated for the 2021 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award for the 3rd consecutive year being the Broncos nomination. Go Broncos from Tucson, Arizona for life. Thank you very much, Michael. And we talked about that earlier on, man. Justin Simmons, there's a little bit of a debate about, like, was he worth getting that big contract? How important is it to pay a safety that kind of money? Is he impactful enough from the safety position to be talking about him as being one of the best safeties in the NFL or worth being paid the best safety money? But it's the entire package for Justin Simmons. It's not that he's just a very good A-level player on the field. He does every single thing you want from a player off the field. Super intelligent, super well-spoken, works the Boys and Girls Club in Denver. Every single opportunity for charity or to give back to the community and put others first. Justin Simmons tends to do that. So, we can criticize him on the field, and because the tape's right there, right? He makes mistakes, dropping picks. Sometimes the tackling's not the best, give or take, he plays. No questioning that man's character. He deserves the 3-time nomination in a row. What a heck of a person. Very happy to have him representing the city and being a Denver Bronco.
Yep. And you talk to anybody that's actually met him in person, and they're like, yeah, he's that genuine of a guy. He's not just doing it for show or anything like that. So really appreciate, again, just him being a Denver Bronco for so many different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing. He's a great player, and I like it that he's playing better recently because it's tough to be super hard on him with the contract and everything, because what a good person he is off the field, and a leader in that locker room too. I guess would call it off the field, but like different kind of off the field, community versus in the locker room. Trevor Sandel coming in here saying, Nick and Carl, your thoughts on Kliss's comments about the Broncos, if they should be targeting Ben Roethlisberger next year. Is this likely? God, I hope not. God. You would talk about everything I just said about Justin Simmons being amazing. If they bring in Ben Roethlisberger, it's like the opposite of that. Big Ben is not known to be a very good person. Obviously, he's had multiple issues off the field, and his game is regressing a lot. I know he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, no doubt about it. He's been great in the NFL for a long time, but he looks like he was washed last year. And I know they just won that game, but it was like 19-20 led on the Steelers defense. I want no part of Ben Roethlisberger in Denver.
Yeah,
no
me either. There'd be a long list of quarterbacks before I ever got to Big Ben.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd rather have Teddy back than Big Ben.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. But we got Cody W coming in here with the super chat saying PS2 could really get that Roddy with Rookie of the Year. Yep, sorry, my bad. I'm used to seeing it in capital letters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with Lions game. That's my excuse. Well, if he goes out there and has if he can get another about 2 or 3 interceptions this season, he's going to be up there. I still think it's going to be tough because cornerbacks just are not recognized. Champ Bailey, when he had his big 10 interception season, and I think he had more interceptions than catches given up for the year. I think was that the 2005 or 2006 year.
Yeah.
Still didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know how. You can't do any more than that as a cornerback than what he did that season.
Yeah.
And yet he still didn't win.
Yeah, it's too bad that they don't have any. NFL is all about these awards, participation trophies. They should have an AFC and an NFC offensive and defensive rookie of the year. We need to celebrate this, and it also create more interest in the teams, more teams to be excited about stuff and stuff to talk about with the NFL draft. I don't know why they don't do this already with that kind of thing. Obviously, there can only be one league MVP, but with something like that, why not give it an NFC and an NFC designated one? So Patrick Surtain, be the AFC one at this point. But because there's only one award, and because NFL voters still are overly romanticized with the linebacker position and the gosh damn stupid Cowboys, it's going to be Micah Parsons. It'll be Micah Parsons. And he deserves it too. He's been incredible this year.
Yes.
His pressure rate has been amazing. If you guys go back, I said, off-ball linebacker, maybe wouldn't use a top 10 pick on that. Micah Parsons, the edge rusher. Maybe we have something there. And he's been incredible off the edge. So good. Obviously playing off-ball linebacker too, and they have Randy Gregory and Dexter Lawrence. There's going to be some reps for him as a Mike in that as well. And he's an incredible sideline to sideline. But it's going to be Parsons Award. We appreciate the optimism, Cody. But it's just, there's too much. Typically it's a linebacker or a pass rusher award, right? Like sacks or tackles, even though tackles are a terrible stat. As far as evaluating who's making a positive impact on the field. And also he plays for the Cowboys. People aren't watching the Broncos right now. They saw the Broncos on Sunday and the defense played great, but Patrick Surtain didn't have, 2 pick sixes kind of thing. Right. And it's going to be Parsons unless he does something abhorrent, which that's one of the reasons he fell in the draft. But I doubt that's going to happen.
Right. All right. Well, we got Shandy Bracey coming in saying, evening priests, go Broncos. Called the angry runs, our shining light of the Chiefs game.
Yeah.
I would say the shining light was the defense. making Patrick Mahomes look very, very human in that game.
I'll go specifically the back seven.
Yep.
I think Kenny Young had his worst graded game via Pro Football Focus's grade this season. I think he had like a 26 grade, which is terrible, and he was bad, really bad in the first half. Also think it's kind of funny. Pro Football Focus just did their top 75 free agents this upcoming season. You had 2 linebackers for the Broncos in that list. Neither of them were Kenny Young. So Kenny Young's been solid for the Broncos, but I think that people are a little bit eager to overstate his impact in comparison to the guys that he replaced. Alas, Billy Ray Valentine coming in here saying, do you think Matt Ryan would be available after this season? His contract would be interesting to work out. If I were in charge of the Falcons, I would be doing everything possible to move on from him because I don't think this, and it's not Matt Ryan's fault. I think he is starting to dip, but it's because that Falcons team, I mean, watching them, I'm going to be talking with Scott tomorrow on his channel. You guys can join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Yes, 8 a.m. Mountain time to talk a little bit of Falcons and draft, but like their coverage guys outside of AJ Terrell, bad. Their defensive line, bad. Their offensive line, bad. Like, and you have 3 years now to maximize it with Matt Ryan. It's not happening. 2 years with Matt Ryan. Yes, so sorry, Scott, 2 years. It's not happening. Move on. You should move on and get what you can and start that rebuild now because it's just not going to happen. And I feel bad for Matt Ryan in that sense, but like the Falcons are terrible around him. They just are.
Like I said, that contract, it's going to be tough to figure that out.
They just need to eat the money. I know they already have a lot of dead cap, but like, it's just like, take your poison pill now. I mean, if I was the Falcons, I'd be looking at that 2023 class and like, I have to finish with a top 3 pick. Will Anderson, the best pass rusher since Myles Garrett, or one of those top quarterbacks. Giddy up. Let's get there. But that's just me. I don't mind biting the bullet and sucking big time if you can get that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Cody W. It's just 1 year, right? It's 1 year versus a decade. Cody W. saying, what about offensive rookie of the year? You think Pookie is in it? No, it's not. Unless he goes absolutely ham over these last few weeks. Possible. But right now it's either Mac Jones or Jamar Chase. Both those guys are playing incredible football. I know that Mac Jones only completed two passes yesterday, but he's been playing good, and it's typically a quarterback award. And Jamar Chase has been incredible, even though he's dropping a lot of footballs. Right, again, it's rearing its head again, but it would be one of those two guys, I think.
Yeah, again, those are the sexy positions of the offense, of course, and it's hard to beat a rookie quarterback.
Yeah,
they could play average, and for them, that's for a rookie of the year, you're going to get it because you're going to be the talk of the town. Mac Jones playing for such a prominent program and having a decent, I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's having a decent season, but he's not why they're winning games.
Yeah.
They got a lot of other good things going for him. But we got CC coming in saying a guy that the Broncos should target is Daxton Hill. What? I think somebody else has mentioned that before. Love his versatility in the secondary. I
wonder if CC is Zan21 on Twitter, because we talk sometimes. I know you know Zan on Twitter as well. But I love Daxton Hill. He was all over the field against Iowa this last week, and he had a play where it was one that was just eye-popping. He was playing the safety, or he was playing nickel position over the right hash mark, and the Hawkeyes ran a rub route on like 3rd and 4 to the flat and get to their tight end, and Hill comes all the way across the field to tackle him for 1 yard gain. The Broncos need a new nickel next year. They're losing Kyle Fuller. They're losing Bryce Callahan. I don't know if anybody else on this roster I trust to play that slot cornerback spot. Daxton Hill does. He's actually the type of hybrid that Fangio uses. So it's specifically his Fangio defense, he would really interest me. He's really tough. Sure. I mean, he's one of the best over the last decade. He's one of the highest tested safety recruits that's ever been recorded with his Spark score. So you know how Peyton was really leaning into those RAS guys. Daxton Hill's probably going to test crazy and climb up draft boards with that. So we'll see. We do want to get to Carl, the positives coming on here, and we'll let Scott go through the chat here to see if anything else really makes sense here. And we appreciate you guys, everybody joining us today. And Pedro, I know that I want to get this one, Pedro, real quick. A handful of safeties are better, but you pay top safety money for a top safety play. You don't pay for being a good person, pure PR move. Justin Simmons is Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the 3rd year in a row. He got paid big money, but there's safeties after him who were going to get paid big money as well. And big thing with George Payton, who I guess we can criticize him if we want right now, but has been retaining your good guys in that locker room for competitive value. You're not overpaying and rewarding them. And I think that's an important one here. So I get what you're saying, but I think that with the context of Walter Payton Man of the Year, it's worth talking it in that discussion right now. Okay, so positives here. Who has been your biggest pleasant surprises on this team now that we are 6-6 on the season with 5 games to go?
Well, I mean, the entire rookie class obviously has been a pleasant surprise. It's not that they're just being thrown in because there's injuries or anything like that. They're actually playing at a high level.
Yeah.
But I really just want to highlight, of course, I don't know. There's not even just one that I can really point to and say that's the one that's really going to set this team, because there's just so many of them out there that are playing at such a great level for the Broncos. I mean, Cooper looking like he is the best pass rusher on this team right now. Who would have thought I mean,
Draymond maybe, but
okay. But I mean, edge guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just say edge. And for a 7th round guy to come in and be able to do that is just pretty darn impressive. And so, like I said, this rookie class has just been a huge pleasant surprise. It's one of the biggest reasons this team is still winning games, even though they've had all the injuries that they have had, and of course, trading away Von Miller, all those kind of things. And so just very happy with that. And I would say, I'll just add another one, then I'll let you get to yours. I'd say George Paton has been a real pleasant surprise. Like I expected decent things from him, but there's not many moves that he's made that I can't sit here and say, wow, that's worked out really well for the Broncos. Like all of them have worked out really well so far, other than maybe a couple that you can sit there and say, why'd you do that?
Yeah. For me, the biggest one would have to be Quinn Miners. Came into this season saying like, hey guys, if we don't see Quinn Miners at all this year, that's okay. He is coming from Division III Whitewater. Talk about a massive change. That'd be like playing ball against middle schooler and then playing college football. Maybe not that big a difference, but like what a crazy jump. And then to have him go from that level to the NFL in a weird offseason as well, with still not as weird as last offseason, but a weird offseason as well. And he's been competent out there. Now, obviously, we can nitpick some. When he gets to the second level, or sometimes when he has to move into space, he can be a little bit out of control and not reach his target with a good block. He needs to play with a little bit more control when he's targeting those second level defenders. And he needs to be much better in pass protection. But the fact that he's out there at all, looking competent, and not only looking competent, but splash plays in the run game, huge surprise. I was totally ready to be like, okay, well, he's going to compete for a spot next year, because you're talking about the very end of the 3rd round for a guy who was always supposed to be a project. So the fact that he's come in and not only looked competent, but been one of the tone setters on that entire offense has been mind-blowing to me. What a huge positive and surprise. I was totally ready to write him off this season, not long-term, but this season. And he belongs, right. Man. He's really good.
Right. And I mean, same with Baron Browning. We kind of said the guy's raw. He needs a year to develop. And yet he's out there wearing the green dot for this team and not only looking competent, but looking like he could be a future long-term answer at the linebacker position for the Broncos. I mean, even as a rookie, I'm sitting there saying, yeah, I could see this being a second contract kind of guy, because he's that impactful at the linebacker position. And I don't want to pay linebackers usually, but because of his athleticism and what he brings to the table, if he keeps on this path of development, man, the sky really is the limit with that guy. And so, like you said earlier, of getting the guys who have high athletic profiles that they did in the draft, that's why you can see incredible ceilings for each of these guys. Yeah.
No, I 100% agree with you there. Definitely both of those guys. Baron Browning is another one who sticks out to me as a big surprise. Another one who has been a surprise for me in a kind of a negative and positive way has been Kyle Fuller. Obviously you paid him the big contract, and then he disappointed on the boundary, no doubt about that. But to see him be a healthy, not logging any snaps for multiple games, and then stepping up and playing the nickel spot this season, which is something he's never played before in the NFL. And I don't know if he played there in college either. I mean, hats off to him, right? This is a team that he only signed a 1-year deal, and it would have been easy for him to kind of pack it up once it was obvious that he was being displaced on the boundary. But he got his number called, and he played pretty well so far in the nickel. And I know that he's not perfect in the nickel by any means, and that's where a lot of teams are targeting right now. But I think that's also a testament to how good Darby and Surtain have been on the boundary. So Fuller's a positive for me because of his season's path so far and his ability to answer the bell when they said, hey, we need a nickel to come in here. And he's played for the most part solid there. Not great. You're looking to replace him after this season, especially for what he's getting paid. But I think he's been a pleasant surprise from that nickel spot.
I'll give a shout out to a guy that I think took one of the biggest leaps on the team this year. And it doesn't mean that he's playing great, but it just means he took a really big step forward in Cushenberry.
Mm-hmm.
I think he went from maybe worst center in football as a rookie to, I'd say he's more middle of the pack this year. And, I probably couldn't ask for much more from a guy to make that kind of leap. That's a giant leap for any NFL player. And doesn't mean I'm still not looking to upgrade the position this offseason. I want to bring in competition for him. But like I said, he's made a nice step forward that at least gives me some confidence that maybe the Broncos can be okay at that position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got Iron Man coming in here saying, will the Broncos get rid of Graham Glasgow, making a lot of money for not so great playing? I think that after this season, his contract is relatively easy to move on from. So I would expect that to happen. Maybe you could see a renegotiation of that contract to give yourself some flexibility for a guy who can play all three spots along the interior, and then not have that dead cap hit while retaining depth at the position. But I think it's most likely a move on from Graham Glasgow, just with how the contract is set up and the fact that you have 3 to 4 young guys on the interior that you feel pretty confident in taking the field and looking good. You will need to add depth there again this offseason at some point, but feel pretty good about Reisner, Cushenberry, Miners, and Moody as your core 4 interior for 2022.
Yeah, like I said, you want to add at least one more guy to get some competition and just add some depth, because right now, I mean, Miners played a little bit of center in the offseason, but he never played that in college. It would make me nervous if Cushenberry ever went down. What are you doing at that position? And so I do want a little bit more depth at guys that have some experience for sure at the center position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good one. And we got Cody W coming in here saying Anderson was looking good. Calvin Anderson, he looks solid, no doubt about it. In the limited reps that he had, it's a big bummer that he got injured, because I would love to have seen some right tackle reps as well from him, just to see how viable he would be. Because I think he's a true free agent at the end of this year, an unrestricted free agent. I don't think he's a restricted free agent. So he's one that, between him and Massey, maybe there's only one contract there for those guys. And if you knew that he could play right tackle as well as left tackle, maybe you go in on him. But Anderson was looking good in the limited reps. And it's too bad that he suffered that injury. It's not season ending, right? But it essentially was season ending, is my understanding.
Yep. Yeah, there's a chance he'll be back after a few weeks here. So that's a positive. At least, if nothing else, he can maybe have an off season that he can get stronger and stuff like that. And I wouldn't mind the Broncos bringing him back on a 1 year or 2 year prove it kind of deal, because he is a good swing tackle for the team.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And finally, unfortunately, I don't want to come back to a negative, but one that stuck out to me here as far as somebody who has let me down. And I know that I typically do not like to blame players for this kind of thing from happening, but it's another year we're in this situation. We are coming up to a deadline where we need to know what this guy is with the direction of the team and that with what they're going to do at that position. It's Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb, you drafted him 5th overall, sour grapes, could have had Josh Allen. Josh Allen hasn't been that great this season, blah, blah, blah. He hasn't been what you'd hope for that 5th overall pick. And now you are coming into this stretch run where your edge rushers have not really been getting after the quarterback here. Pretty recently, Jonathan Cooper has had some high variance games, but Chubb is getting a good share of the snaps and has not been super impactful. I know he's coming off the injury again, but it's disappointing because you need him, and you're going to have to make a long-term decision at that edge rushing position, maybe as soon as this draft. I mean, maybe you're drafting Chubb's replacement this year. So the fact that we haven't even seen to know if we want to look elsewhere because Chubb is a defensive building block kind of piece, that's disappointing to me. So that's one that is a letdown. It's not entirely his fault. The bone spurs in the ankle, the surgery, blah, blah, blah. I know that. But still disappointing. And I'm sure he's disappointed too, right? He would tell you that the same thing, and he's working hard, and I'm sure he is. But we need to have good tape out there on him to understand what we have at that position and what we're going to do at edge going forward.
Yeah, I was going to say the next 6 games are going to be huge, or 5 games. Sorry, 5 games left. I'm hoping for 6.
Plus 7.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, you're right. We need to have some clarity on that, because edge is going to be a priority even if he plays good. But how big of a priority? Is it going to have to be you have to go use that number 1 or that first round pick on an edge rusher? Do you need to go to free agency and pay big money to bring somebody in? If he's playing well, then maybe you can push that off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not as high as maybe a right tackle or the quarterback position. It could be maybe 3 on the list. But all right, we got Stone Carranza coming in here again saying, would you consider giving up Chubb for a strong quarterback? Go Broncos and happy holidays.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah.
Just point me in there. I get what's a strong quarterback? I guess that is leaving it up for interpretation. Like Tim Tebow is strong. I'm not giving up Bradley Chubb for Tim Tebow. But that's one that makes me a little bit concerned. But yeah, Chubb, as important as edge rusher is, it's the second most important on the field, no doubt about it. I guess you could argue maybe cornerback or tackle or wide receiver, but quarterback eclipses all of those multiple times. So would I give up Chubb for a strong quarterback? Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'd have another chance to get an edge rusher. To get a good quarterback, that's way harder.
And we just want to say we really appreciate the stars that you've provided here tonight. Just it means a lot to us, and very much a happy holiday to you and your family during this time.
Yeah, no, totally. Thank you so much, Stone. And definitely get the quarterback. We'd have a lot of fun here in Broncos country. Talking about Bradley Chubb here from Cody W saying plays well or not, he's an injury risk. With Chubb, yeah, that's the thing about him, right? He's going to have to play better, and he's going to have to prove it again next year. Luckily, the Broncos have another year of control with him. It's just the thing that concerns me, and it's a good problem to have. This would be a good problem, but let's say you invest a first-round pick and get George Karlaftis at pick 17, right? Just throwing a name out there, just out of the hat, on no association. But George Karlaftis and Jonathan Cooper plays great, and Chubb is playing great. Great problem to have. Where's the money going, right? Because you shouldn't let Chubb go if he's playing great unless you don't believe that he can stay healthy. So he is an injury risk, but luckily we have 5 more games and next season and potentially a franchise tag after that if he's playing so well that he's earned that, to at least figure out, can he string healthy games together?
Yep. And of course, a lot will depend on the quarterback position. If you're paying high money for a quarterback, it could factor into what you're doing at that position. If you're paying a rookie, you can afford to take some risk on a guy that might be injury prone. But all right, we got Herb Davis coming in here saying, question, can we for once just draft a talented quarterback instead of getting someone's hand-me-downs, one we can keep for 10 years or better? Well, I mean, that's the dream. Every team, that's what they want. The reality is, though, it's harder than it seems. Yeah. I mean, look at the Browns right now. They're having to make a decision on Baker Mayfield. They took him number 1 overall, and he's kind of on that edge of, is he worth paying a second contract? Is he not? Kind of wavering back and forth. It is. It's just really, really tough to find one. I mean, Broncos invested a decent draft pick into Paxton Lynch, thinking he'd be the future of the team. Put a second round pick into Drew Lock. It's not like they haven't tried to go in that direction and find somebody. It hasn't worked out yet. And, you don't draft a quarterback really high in the draft unless you really believe, hey, this guy is the future of this team.
Yeah. I mean, ideally you'd get that, but also it's the context of this quarterback class. You don't have even though he struggled so far this season, you don't have a Trevor Lawrence in every single class. You don't have 5 quarterbacks go in the top 15 picks of every single class. And that just doesn't seem like it's going to be the case this season. So maybe you get lucky and you get a guy day 2 and he ends up being a Derek Carr or a Dak Prescott for you. That'd be great. I would take either of those guys, especially on their rookie contracts. But it's hard to do. So ideally you find one draft. But the other thing is with drafting a quarterback, especially this year's crop, you're not drafting any of these guys for what they're going to be in 2022, right? You're drafting these guys for 2023, honestly, 2024. I think 2 years in the league for any of these rookie quarterbacks before I'm starting to really buy in either way. And with the way this roster is built right now, I mean, outside the quarterback position, it's ready to go for the most part. I mean, obviously it's not a perfect roster, but there's a lot of pieces here. It reminds me a lot of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year before Tom Brady came in, and you pluck him in and boom, Super Bowl. You risk losing a lot of these cost-controlled guys over these next couple of years, waiting for that window to open for that rookie quarterback. If you are hell-bent on that rookie quarterback as well. And I still think that's the way to go overall, if you can. But you shouldn't turn your nose up at potentially acquiring Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, because that means the next 3 years are going to be good. I know people want, you want to be good for 20 years, of course. But there's no guarantees. So if you can get a window for 3 years, you take it. You figure out the rest later.
For sure. All right, we got Clee Torres coming in here with a little bit of humor to kind of close out this evening for us. Why don't you ever see hippopotamuses hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it. There you go.
Hippopotamuses scare the absolute bleep out of me. Man, have you ever seen one of those guys swimming in the water and chasing down one of those boats?
Yeah.
Hell no. God, it's gators, lions, all those guys. They get a bad rap. Hippopotamuses, best PR agent we're talking about Justin Simmons being a PR move. Hippos, baby hippos, those things grow up to be cold stone killers. Absolutely not. Not for me. I'm not messing with no hippos. Hard pass. Unless they want to complain on the defensive line, then I'm in. I do also like the videos when they crush those watermelons. That's always a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Any other positives that you are interested in as before we get on out of here? Some guys who have been pleasant surprises for you.
Well, I'm trying to think here.
I'll give one.
that...
Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain this early. I mean, we saw it last year. We had 2 cornerbacks drafted in the top 10 in Jeffrey Okudah and CJ Henderson. Both those guys have looked really not very good. I mean, Okudah was the number 3 overall pick, even not, back end of the top 10. And Patrick Surtain has lapped those guys with how good he's looked out there this season. I mean, he's already top 15 cornerback in football and ascending. I mean, he's only 21, 22 years old. So Surtain, even though he had a lot of hype coming in with the 9th overall pick, he's surpassed the hype, in my opinion. He's been that good on the field. So pleasantly surprised with how good he already is. I'm really excited about that.
All right, I'll throw another one out here, mostly because I just like saying his name because I can say it right. Albert Okawa.
Okay.
Nailed it. It's always fun to listen every week to them try to pronounce that name, and man, they have an entire week to get one name right, and they can't do it. But we worked on it obviously a long time to get it right. But he's been more than I ever thought he'd be in the NFL. Yeah. He's actually done well of yards after the catch. I thought he'd be kind of a straight line guy, red zone target. No, they've been using him in 3rd down situations. And, he got hurt earlier this year, so he hasn't had quite as much opportunity, but he seems to be the tight end that Teddy Bridgewater trusts the most. And like I said, he's doing some nice things on the field as a receiver. He hasn't been a complete liability as a blocker. So, like I said, I didn't expect much coming into the NFL. We all talked about it on this podcast when we were doing the draft coverage. We were mad about that pick. And now I'm sitting here saying, I'm glad I'm eating some crow.
Yeah, we're having some Kenny Pickett questions in here, so might as well get into that. Kenny Pickett is an interesting quarterback, but he's got 3 things going against him that make me a little bit skeptical. Now, I'm not saying I'm out on Kenny Pickett because I know enough to know that I don't know enough in general, especially with the quarterback, because it's so much is between the ears and what's in the guy's heart. But Kenny Pickett is going to be 24 years old as a rookie, which is extremely old for the quarterback position. Trey Lance came into the league and he was drafted at age 21. So he's 3 or 4 years older than Trey Lance. And Trey Lance is already going to have a year in the league than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett has already played a bleep ton of games in Pittsburgh. So it's not like he's raw and developing in that sense. He already has a lot of reps. So there's a good argument with his age and the reps he's had. He's already taken a lot of steps forward. There's not going to be this linear growth that you see from other quarterbacks. And speaking of a lot of those starts, Kenny Pickett was not that good before this season. I know he had a really high adjusted completion percentage because a lot of drops last year with Pittsburgh, but definitely not somebody that people thought would be a 1st-round pick. And finally, maybe this one will get some eye rolls out there, but Kenny Pickett with 8.25-inch hands. Carl, there have been, since 1999, there have been 227 quarterbacks with their hands measured at the combine. Following me so far? Okay.
Yep.
How many have had 8.25-inch hand size measured? One quarterback. And we're not just talking good quarterbacks in the NFL or anything like that or blah, blah, blah. In the NFL combine since 1999, out of 227 quarterbacks who've had their hands measured, 1 quarterback has hands that small. And it's not an official measurement yet, so we'll see what that comes out to be. But for me, there are obviously outliers that work in the league. Sometimes that happens, but there is a reason that outliers typically don't work. So it just makes me a little bit skeptical and hesitant with him at this point with all those factors stacked on each other. If he's got the heart and the mind, then, you can say, I'm F these outlier stuffs. I don't care. He's our guy. Okay, more power to you. But from where I sit, it just makes me a little bit skeptical.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Kenny Pickett, and I think if you want day one impact guy, Kenny Pickett's probably your guy.
Yeah.
If you really want to maximize this roster, like I said, if you're not getting a veteran, Kenny Pickett might be your top choice. Carson Strong could be up there if his knee checks out, but there's some red flags that you got to get checked out for sure, especially playing in Denver where weather can change week to week like crazy. And he has 26 fumbles in college as well. That's another worry about those small hands. So there's some things, and each of these quarterbacks in the top of the draft, they have some concerns for sure. But I wanted to get to Cody W here with his super chat. Pookie, limited reps and still looks like a monster. Yeah, he looks like a star for the future. I've loved watching that guy play. He's been one of the few bright spots of this offense, and made some plays that just were not there, and turned a 2-yard run into a 40-yard run, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad he's a Denver Bronco. I was a little leery about trading up for a running back, but so far he's been pretty much worth it.
Yeah, especially these next 3 years. He's going to be great. But Scott makes a good point here from the Mile High Huddle account saying limited reps might be the reason he looks like a monster right now. He's a rookie and he's fresh instead of hitting a wall. And there's something to be said about that. I remember the year that the Broncos leaned on CJ Anderson's legs. I think it was 2014 down the stretch. And it's like, oh my God, CJ Anderson putting up 20, 30 points of fantasy game per week. And it's like, well, he hasn't been getting any touches. So everybody else is, tired, bumped and bruised. And this guy's completely fresh coming in down the stretch. Obviously, Williams is not completely fresh, but there is something to be said about having less wear and tear on you, especially now that we're in an 18-game season. You're going to need to see those guys. So keeping them fresh, I think that's not a bad way to go at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think you need to have two to three good running backs on your roster because of injuries, because just guys get banged up throughout the year, and just because you want to have that 25 to 30 carries a game if you can. It usually means you're winning games, and you can't put that all on one player.
And Colin Wood saying, admit it, Nick, you hated the pick of Pookie at the time. I didn't hate it, but trading up in the second round left me a little bit of a we could have used another pick on a defensive depth player at that point with that extra pick we gave up. But, you can go back and listen to Broncos for Breakfast dating back to March, where Scott and I, one of our first shows, talking about how much we liked Javonte Williams and thought he'd be a great fit for both the Falcons or the Broncos. One of the first things we talked about on those shows. So trading up for him, you got to hit on that player then. It makes it that much more important to hit on that pick, but looks like they hit on it and they're going to maximize that guy on his rookie contract. So we'll see. And also I try to do my best to be happy about the controllables, right? And that's something I couldn't control. So we're going to try to look at it as positively as possible and hope for the best, because that's all you can do at this point. And guys, talking about being positive, we got to get on out here. So got to go cook dinner for the family. And I know Carl's got some stuff to do as well. So, and we're already at an hour and 8 minutes. So we appreciate you. Want to give a shout out to Clayton Huron. I saw that his family is sick, dealing with a sick bug going on there. So hopefully everybody's doing better there. And also, again, another shout out to Robot of Doom over on Twitch with his uncle battling for the night. So hopefully we'll hear good news tomorrow. But thinking about both of you guys, we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are great. Chat was lively today, and for the most part, pretty cordial. Sometimes I'm a jerk and I can flame people up a little bit, but that's fun. So we appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following Carl and myself on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler MHH, and I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BTB Football Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. Guys, holidays right around the season. Maybe you're like me, a little bit last minute with your shopping, or you have an incredible wife who is a way better gift giver than you, so you don't have to think about very much, but you still have to get somebody a gift. Why not get your favorite Bronco fan something over at huddleuppod.com? We got hats, we got shirts, we got coffee mugs, we got gaiters, we got sweatshirts, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you go out there and get some of that, and share your swag with me on Twitter. Add us on Twitter so we can see it and reshare it and get some hype on that, because they're good looking stuff. I love all our hats. A lot of fun. Also, guys, if you're on Facebook, make sure you're joining us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, as well as /Mile High Huddle Pod. If you are listening to After the Facts or you have an iTunes account, go to Apple Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And we're going to keep reading through those as the shows go along. I'll read another one Thursday morning. And also, YouTube folks, please subscribe, like, and share. I know not everybody, especially this time of year, is in a position where they have the finances to contribute to the show in that way. But if you aren't in that position where you can do something like that, what you can do is subscribe, like, and share completely for free. And that helps us a heck of a lot. So we really appreciate when you do that. So, Carl, what's the rest of the night looking like for you?
Heading to the gym after this. I was planning on going before the show, but like I said, my computer decided to do the blue screen of death. And so I had to get my computer running just so I could do the show. Now I can go relax, get a little workout in, let off some steam about my computer maybe dying and have to go buy a new one. But yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Then maybe get my living room ready for hanging Christmas decorations.
There you go. We leave on the 15th, so we decorated early just so we could enjoy it around the house as well. So, well, guys, we appreciate you. Some of you, I'm sure we'll see tomorrow morning on Scott's channel on YouTube, so make sure you go check us out there. The rest of you have a great night. Stay safe. Choose kindness. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.